Copy not ready. Okay, welcome to the October 20th council meeting. We did recess to closed session, and before I ask for a report out of closed session, I'd like to ask Councilman Hargrove if you'd please lead us in the flag salute.
Certainly. Everyone, please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready to begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you'll please note that we have Economic Development Report for September in our council packets. That always has some very interesting information. Now I'd like to ask for our Attorney Galante to please report out of closed session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council and audience. The City Council met in closed session and discussed the two items listed on the agenda, namely conference with real property negotiator concerning the property at 13146 Monte Vista Avenue. As previously reported, the negotiating party is Partida Mary Esparza Living Trust with the City of Chino. Under negotiation is price and terms of potential lease or purchase. The City Council received an update to those negotiations, provided direction, and no further reportable action was taken. City Council also held a discussion on the second item, public employee performance evaluation, title City Attorney. City Council performed the performance evaluation, provide direction, no further reportable action was taken. That concludes the report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ballantyne, do we have any agenda additions or revisions?
Thanks, Mayor. I do not. No changes.
Okay. Next is public announcements. As you all know, the city continues to ensure we are keeping one another safe by practicing social distancing as we meet in the council chambers. While this has limited our ability to call folks up to be recognized, we certainly do not want to miss out acknowledging important programs and proclamations in our community. Tonight, we will be recognizing October 22nd as Lights On After School Day in the city of Chino. City's always emphasized a collaborative effort to promote youth programming in the city. The Chino Focus on Youth Collaborative was established more than 20 years ago in partnership with the Chino Valley Unified School District, the Chino Valley YMCA, and many other youth organizations to ensure our youth have safe and beneficial programs during the critical hours after the school day ends. While this year has presented considerable challenges, the city has continued to find ways to engage our youth through multiple virtual recreational classes and after-school enrichment activities via Zoom and in-person extended camp care. Through this proclamation, we want to stress the importance of youth programming and activities, particularly after the school day has ended. Lastly, I want to give an early reminder that on Halloween, which is Saturday, October 31st, the City of Chino will be holding our annual Halloween Spooktacular at Ruben S. Ayala Park, located at 14225 Central Avenue, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Please note that due to COVID-19, this year's event will have to be conducted much differently than in past years. Instead of having a traditional in-person event, we will be conducting this year's Spooktacular as a drive-through. This means all events will be tailored to activities that can be safely performed in your vehicle to ensure social distancing. These activities include drive-through trunk-or-treating, a scavenger hunt, a spooky tunnel, and a car decoration contest. We ask that no one exit their vehicles while attending the event and that all participants wear face coverings when the car window is down. Additionally, we ask that you please register for a specific time frame, which is available online, visiting www.cityofchino.org/Halloween. Please note that registration for both Chino residents and non-residents is now available. Finally, when entering the staging area for the event, we ask that you please enter the event heading south on Oaks Avenue from Edison Avenue, continue right onto College Park Avenue. Here, you will see a City of Chino Community Services staff member directing you to the right location. For all questions, please call 909-334-3258 or email communityservices@cityofchino.org. Next on our agenda is public communication. This is the time and the place for the general public to address the council about items that are not on the agenda elsewhere. Due to Brown Act requirements and council policy, we cannot take action on anything that's not agendized, but we'd be glad to hear your comments. Our first written request to speak is David Bustamante from the Calvary Chapel, Chino Valley. At this time, I'd like to ask all of you who would like to join us in an invocation to please stand.
Madam Mayor, council members, and staff, thank you as always for the opportunity to lead the invocation. Let's pray. Father, we just thank you for tonight and being able to gather. And Lord, you call us to lift up our leaders in prayer. And so we do that, Lord. We ask that you would have your hand on them, that you would protect them from illness, that you would give them strength and good health, that, Lord, you would give them a clarity of mind as they make important and challenging decisions that affect this community. We pray that they would have pure hearts, Father, as they serve every single resident of this community. And we just ask that you be with them tonight and going forward, Lord. We thank you for them and we lift them to you in your name. Amen.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Okay, a written request from Josie Garrow.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council. I came up with I didn't come up with it. It just has happened. It's a campaign concern that I had. I live off of Francis, and I go up and down Francis like 3 and 4 times a day. And I helped Paul put up signs, and I noticed that some of his signs were missing. And I was wondering what happened to them. So I called and I go, Paul, some of those signs that I helped you put up are not there anymore. And I wondered what happened. And he goes, well, Josie, I don't know what's happening. But I know that they didn't disappear. So I know that's someone, I'm not accusing anybody, but they have been removed. And that's not right. I mean, I've lived in this community all my life, and I love this community. Chino, anyone who's lived here for a long time is very blessed, and they know what a great community it is in all aspects. So I hope that people are aware that signs are being removed, and that shouldn't be happening. Wouldn't want to see anybody's signs removed. And I know everyone who has signs on Francis, I check them all out everywhere I go. I check where they're at. And I was really upset that I saw this happen because I did it, and I did it on a hot day. So, and that made me even madder. So I hope that things like this don't continue to happen. And I hope all of you have a safe Halloween and these holidays, and go Dodgers.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Josie. I will say I have run for election now for 10 or 11 times, and every election signs are taken, every election signs are destroyed, they disappear, signs get put in front of other signs, and every time I've run, I've had them stolen or destroyed. It just seems to always happen, Josie. It seems to happen to every candidate. And it is upsetting because all of us take a lot of time to put it up. But Yeah, I don't know. It happens every election, sadly enough. Next written request to speak is George Negrete.
Hello, my name is George Negrete, and I've lived here in Chino since 1983. And my concern is, I have 4 concerns, issues, and it's the cars that are speeding down the Stonegate Drive. I'm asking for speed bumps. A lot of the neighbors are, and if I need to go ahead and get what do you call it? Not subpoena, but
Petition.
I can't even think. Petition to get the speed bumps. It's for everyone's safety. We have a lot of youngsters go skateboarding and they don't always stay on the sidewalk, and it's really sad that someone could get hurt, and we could deal with it. We could prevent that. Another thing is that our streets recently got paved. And I'd like to address this to the person that gave the okay or the one that followed up, because I called the number that was on the paper, on the sheet that was given to everyone. It says, if you had any questions, go ahead and call this number. Yeah, well, right, I did. And I called and nobody answered. But I walk my dogs religiously every night, and I could see out of the driveways where the street is coming up. Now, like I said, I want to address it to the person that was following up on this, because to me, that wasn't a good job at all. And shame on you, because I've seen it done better. I think, not the last time it was done, but the time before, I believe they used a steamroller. So whatever was there, it was gonna stay. It didn't come up. But you could go by and you could see the driveways, and they did a sloppy job on certain areas. Shame on them. Because, we live in a good neighborhood, and we put out good money for taxes, and I'd like to see it, when you do something, go ahead and do it, make it better. And the lights on Stonegate Drive and San Antonio, on that corner, they are nice. You could see them, you could see the license plate of a vehicle. You can't read it from a distance. And
So the street lights you're talking
yes,
about.
ma'am. Yes, and I believe they should all be upgraded. And if it costs money, that's worth spending taxes on, because it's for everyone's safety. I've had the officers from Chino Police Department come and use my cameras to spot on a house that had been broken into 5 or 6 houses away. Well, good luck if you go ahead and do it with the lighting that we have now. Let's see, what else am I going to cry about? Okay. The speed bumps. What's the criteria for the mask? One of my neighbors told me that he went to a gym, and he walked in and he seen that no one had mask on, so he says, "Hey, let's leave." So, what is San Bernardino County? What is the criteria? Everybody should have a mask, right?
I think that's what they're saying.
Oh, and this will probably be the last one. Now, I love tacos, but are we going to start having taco wagons around the neighborhood?
No, we're
Now,
not. And
I've seen it.
well, they've also been cited. So we're there's action being taken.
I don't want to see us go downhill,
I agree.
If you're going to do that, might as well throw in some smoke shops, right? So I guess I'm done.
Okay. I'm sure
have enough?
staff took
Okay.
notes.
And what was the street? I'm sorry, what was the street name?
Stonegate.
Stonegate.
Stonegate, and then San Antonio. Thank you for bringing your concerns. Okay, those are the only written requests that I have to speak. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address council on an item that's not on the agenda? Here comes somebody that looks very familiar.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Brenda Strong, and tonight I just wanted to thank all of you. It's nice to go to a meeting and see respect for each other. So I wanted to say thank you, and I wanted to say thank you to staff. We're very blessed in this city, and a big thank you to our fire and police department. They've been under a lot of stress lately.
Yes.
That's it. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Brenda. How nice. Anyone else in the audience would like to address us on an item that's not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Do any council members wish to have any items pulled, or anyone in the audience wish to have any items pulled? Okay, then I would entertain a motion. Motion from Councilman Hargrove, second from Councilman Rodriguez. And the consent calendar passes unanimously. Under new business, item number 14, City Manager Employment Agreement. This is to approve the 6th Amendment to the City Manager Employment Agreement. Council met in closed session last council meeting. Councilman, or Mayor Pro Tem Howie and I reviewed the critiques of Mr. Ballantyne and found that we are extremely happy with him. We have decided to extend his contract to July 31st, 2025. So we're lucky to have him for another 5 years. I think we're very blessed. We get a lot of compliments on Mr. Ballantyne. So I guess he ran out because he's not supposed to be here during this item. So it's my pleasure and Mr. Howie's pleasure to bring this item to the council. So I would ask for a motion and a second of approval. Motion from Councilman Lucio, second from Councilman Hargrove, and the item passes unanimously. He also, I'd like to note for the record, City Manager Ballantyne asked for nothing, no raises or any other increases to his benefit bank, so we're blessed to have him. Yeah. You want to bring him back, Nick? I wondered why he ran out so quick.
We've extended his contract and he's gone home.
All right. I didn't mean to make you run out so fast, man.
He's checking the score.
Yeah.
Checking the score. Item number 15, Regional Housing Needs Assessment, which is also referred to as RENA, Allocation Appeal Letter to SCAG. This is to approve the submittal of a RENA appeal application to the Southern California Association of Governments and authorize the city manager to execute all documents on behalf of the city. Our staff report this evening will be provided by Nick Lagori, our Director of Development Services. Nick?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. As you all probably know, I could talk about the subject for at least an hour, but I'm going to really condense my report, and I'll be happy to take any questions at the end. The city is required to update the housing element of its general plan every 8 years. And as part of this, a regional housing needs allocation, or RENA for short, is assigned by the State Department of Housing Community Development to Southern California Association of Governments, or SCAG. And SCAG has a methodology process, which they took a lot of time, took a lot of input from cities this year to develop that methodology process to assign those numbers, to break up that very large number they got from the state, so, 1.3 million units, to each city. Chino's final allocation was 6,961 homes within the next 8-year cycle, which starts at the end of next year. State housing element law also requires cities to zone enough land at appropriate densities to accommodate the construction of their RENA allocation during the cycle. For example, during the current cycle to date, the city has seen the construction of 3,688 homes. So that's a little over half of what our allocation would be for the next cycle.
And in what time frame was that again, Nick?
That's been since 2013. So staff is proposing that our allocation be appealed to SCAG for a reduction. The appeal letter attached to the staff report explains the practical reasons of why the City of Chino's proposed RENA allocation is not attainable, which includes a lack of high-quality transit areas within the city as defined by the state, as well as there not being a dedicated funding stream from the state at the local level for the creation of affordable housing. Now, when the city had a redevelopment agency and redevelopment program, we had a dedicated revenue stream that went directly to housing projects. The city was able to accomplish quite a bit in the previous cycle with the creation of over 500 subsidized units that were affordable to very low and low income households. But with the removal of that dedicated funding stream, the city has struggled to create new affordable units. In fact, in this past cycle, we've accomplished three for sale low-income units, but at a cost of over $300,000 a unit for the construction and underwriting. So subsidized housing is expensive. The city's allocation for that is it's 2,107 units for very low-income individuals. So those are households that are making 50% or less of the area median income. And then 1,281 units for low-income individuals. Those are individual or households making 51 to 80% of the area median income, which for San Bernardino County is $75,300 a year. So there's a lot that goes into the allocation of those numbers, and staff acknowledges that SCAG staff did the best they could with the allocation that they were given. They petitioned the State Department of Housing and Community Development for a reduction in the overall number because they saw it was unattainable, but the state did not budge. And so the SCAG staff did the best they could to fairly allocate those numbers to the jurisdictions throughout the region. So one of the other issues that's addressed in the letter is the availability and cost of infrastructure. So Chino is a bit in a unique position where we have a lot of development happening in the preserve area in the southern part of the city, which has had no infrastructure. So all of the infrastructure has to be built new at a significant cost. But additionally, in areas that could provide infill housing, there is potentially a lack of infrastructure or maybe upgrades needed to existing structure to accommodate an increase in growth. And that would be sewer and water, but it could also be roadways and other things. So that's why staff is recommending the council approve a submittal of a RENA appeal to Southern California Association of Governments. There's a process that SCAG will go through to determine the grounds for the appeal and if the city's number could be reduced. Those hearings will take place in the coming months with a final decision by the end of December or early January. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Council comments?
When
Councilman
is this
Rodriguez.
letter appeal due? Is it Wednesday or Thursday, 21st?
It's due on October 26th.
Okay.
Well, like you said, it's unattainable. I mean, I would suggest, if the state wants this kind of housing built, then they need to also help offset the burden. And they have a lot of land at CIM, and perhaps they ought to seriously think about dedicating and giving some of that land for this kind of development, because we don't control the cost of land. We certainly can't control the cost of building units. I don't know how they expect us to meet these numbers when we have absolutely no control over what it takes to build a house. And we certainly can't subsidize every unit up to the tune of $300,000 per unit to try to make it low income and affordable. So it's extremely frustrating, So, okay.
I have one more question. With AB 101, what is the fine that could happen to us?
The consequences for not having a certified housing element. Yeah, there are actually multiple consequences for not having a certified housing element. The state could fine the city up to $10,000 a day. That's a pretty drastic measure, but one of the other
I
items
believe it's
is
a month.
Yeah. A month?
Not a day.
Yeah. And there's also a population factor in there as well. So I'm kind of generalizing it. I apologize. There's also the ability for certain types of housing to be by right. So essentially, if we don't have a certified housing element, a developer could get a housing development project approved with a ministerial process. So no review process, no formal review process by the city through any hearing body or anything like that. So, and it would also preclude our eligibility for grants for housing. That's how we're utilizing a lot of housing project funding right now, is that we're obtaining it through grants. So those would be removed, and even potentially SB1 funds for roads have been threatened to be, cities to be precluded from that. So there are a lot of consequences for not having a certified housing element.
Yeah. In support with what you're saying, Nick, having been on the voting for community economics and housing development, I've seen Cerritos, Huntington Beach, Laguna Hills put in appeals. So it is good that we are putting our appeal, because it is saying to the state, we're not going to meet the total 6,950 as it is, but at least we have that letter in, and we can negotiate, or I guess, SCAG is working with the state to come up with ideas with experts, and they are the experts with dealing with different types of kinds of size housing, or let's call it dwellings, really, with the Army, because some of them can be very small when you look at them, they're very low. But it's good the letter's going to be in, because at least we have something in, and we can say, hey, we tried.
Nick, I have a question. A lot of times the public doesn't really understand what all this is about. So you reference a certified housing element, which designates densities. How does the certified element, housing element, tie to low-income housing? How do you tie those two together to where, if the state said you're not complying, they could fine us?
Right. So there's a very large chunk of the government code that's related to the state telling cities and counties how they need to go about doing this. But to put it simply, based upon a city's population and location with the metropolitan statistical area, there are certain default densities that are assigned by state law that would be presumed to facilitate the construction of affordable housing. So under the housing element, city itself is not required to build, because cities generally don't build housing.
Right.
The development community builds housing, low-income housing developers build housing, county housing authorities build housing. So what that means is that we have to take those numbers, that 2,107 for very low income and 1,281 for low income, and our default density assigned to us by the state is 30 units per acre. So we essentially have to zone enough land at 30 units per acre that could accommodate that 3,388 units. So in Chino, we're looking at about 115 acres. We only have about 30 acres zoned at 30 units per acre. So we would have to look at some land use changes to the land use element in our general plan as well, in order to accommodate those numbers to make it so that our housing element could be certified by the state, meaning that the council approves it, and then the state says, yes, it meets all of state law requirements.
Okay, now, how many acres did you say we currently have zoned at 30 per acre?
About 30.
About 30, okay. And we've never had any density at 30 per unit or 30 per acre yet, have we?
We haven't. We've had 2 affordable apartment developments that were built that were around 25, and that worked out for them to be able to subsidize. However, they did have inputs from the city. So they had the Ivy project had $10 million of the city housing funds put into that project, and they got the land for virtually nothing from the developer. So the Meadow Square apartments, those were negotiated with the master developer for the preserve. That's 250 units at various affordability levels, some very low, some moderate. We have had a couple of smaller projects in the past, like senior housing that were developed at Hillsborough Village. That's developed at a little over 30 units per acre. So there are examples of that occurring within the city, but not at the scale that this coming RENA allocation would require.
I have a few more questions. Having been back in Washington with the National League of Cities, this crisis of housing is national. And there was quite a few webinars that spoke about the idea back east, in the north, in the south, Texas, all over Seattle. So if you think of it as a systemic way of thinking, the housing is affecting the homeless, where they are either not able to afford a home, afford a rent. So listening to the experts, since cities are not experts, it's the idea of SCAG is saying, with the state's idea backing, is to create these homes so that we can work with within the systemic idea of homelessness, the idea of climate change, the idea of all these different systems that affect a city such as Chino. So in thinking about that, how does SCAG think about sprawl? Can you define what sprawl would mean?
Well, sprawl is essentially pushing residential development out beyond existing urban boundaries and.
Yeah. Well, the way I see it is sprawl is the idea that no longer do we look at homes on half an acre. In other words, large lots. In other words, the thinking is small so it can accommodate more people for dwellings. More people would be accommodated to live, meaning the homeless, meaning those that are unable to rent and could actually live in a place, part of the law. So it's not a law that I created. It's just what I've heard from SCAG and the state. So it's good that we're doing this letter, though. It's very positive because we're showing that, hey, we'll work with you, but we can't do this completely. So I think it's a good idea. I commend you for doing that, the staff.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion in a second. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Howie, second from Councilman Hargrove. Item passes unanimously. Item number 16, Sewer Master Plan and GIS Update, MS 211. This is to approve a professional services agreement with Dudek in Encinitas, California, in the amount of $599,980 for engineering services to prepare the sewer master plan and GIS update, approve a 10% project contingency, and $40,000 for project management. Staff report this evening will be provided by our principal engineer, Amanda Coker.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. The City of Chino currently provides sanitary sewer service to approximately 87,000 people through 21,000 connections and plans for future growth using a sewer master plan as a guiding planning document. The city's current sewer master plan was originally prepared in 1993 with the most recent update in 2011. Since that time, the city's sewer infrastructure has expanded. As development continues, a comprehensive review of existing and future infrastructure is needed to plan a phased approach for capital improvement project implementation. In addition, an update to the city's sewer GIS is needed to reflect changes and additions to the system. Staff scoped this project last fiscal year to combine the master plan and GIS update and included it in the current fiscal year budget. A request for proposals was released in July, to which we received 6 responses. After an evaluation and interviews, Dudek was selected as the highest ranking firm. It is staff's recommendation that the City Council approve a professional services agreement with Dudek in the amount of $599,980. In addition, we recommend appropriating $50,000 from the sewer fund to increase the project budget from $650,000 to $700,000 to provide for project contingencies and project management services. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Amanda? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Howie, second from Councilman Rodriguez. The item passes unanimously. Item number 17, amendment and additional appropriation for professional plan check services. This item is to approve a $300,000 contract amendment with Building Code Services to provide development construction project plan review services. Staff report this evening will be provided by Mike Haru, our Deputy Director of Development Services.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. We are requesting approval to amend the existing professional services agreement with Building Code Services, known as BCS. BCS is our plan check consultant that performs plan review for the building division. During the preparation of the 2020-2021 budget, we took a very conservative approach when anticipating the contract amount needed to perform building plan review. We are pleasantly surprised that the construction activity in the city remains very active, and we continue to receive a high volume of applications. To maintain our current level of service, it will be necessary to add funds to the current contract with BCS. The additional funds will be offset by plan check fees collected by the building projects. Staff recommends the City Council appropriate $300,000 for building plan check services, approve amendment number 2 to the professional plan check service agreement in the amount of $300,000, and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents on the behalf of the city. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions? Any questions from the audience on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion in a second. Motion from Councilman Hargrove, second from Councilman Rodriguez. Item passes unanimously. Item number 18, Services Contract Amendment, Authorization and Reimbursement Agreement, Public Road Crossing Improvements, Surface Signal and Signal Interconnect. Authorization and Reimbursement Agreement, Public Road Improvements between Union Pacific and City of Chino for maintenance reimbursement cost. Staff report this evening will be provided by our Civil Engineering Manager, Maria Frazier.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members and audience. In 2015, the City of Chino received a grant in the amount of $103,613 from Caltrans Rail and Mass Transportation Division for design and construction of safety improvements at Monte Vista Avenue and Union Pacific Railroad Crossing, which is found between Schaefer and Edison Avenue. The safety improvements will include raised medians, signage, and signalized crossing gates, which will provide advance notice to approaching vehicles when the tracks aren't being utilized. Construction documents for the improvements were approved and authorized by council on May 5th, 2020. And on June 16th, a contract was awarded to Aramex in the amount of $104,950. However, to secure an encroachment permit for construction from UPRR requires that the city enters into a reimbursement agreement. Its intent is for the city to reimburse UPRR for the maintenance of warning devices and gates. Per correspondence with UPRR staff, they estimate the city's annual reimbursement amount will be approximately $11,390. Staff has also learned that CPUC has available funds for maintenance of at-grade crossings. It is understood that UPRR staff will submit a request to CPUC for reimbursement. The reimbursement amount is based on the type of facility, and according to the reimbursement schedule, it is expected that UPRR could receive up to $2,263, which will reduce the city's estimated cost to $9,127. For this fiscal year, the maintenance cost will be supported by the authorized project budget and subsequent years by Measure I. Therefore, staff is requesting the council approves the staff report with the recommendations indicated. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion for item number 18. Motion from Councilman Rodriguez, second from Councilman Hargrove. Item passes unanimously. Item number 19, street improvement and right-of-way accessibility improvements at 5264 C Street, Alley Grievance. Award a contract to NPG Incorporated, Paris, California, in the amount of $59,764 for C Street Accessibility Improvement Project, ST 173. Maria, you're on again.
The second item for Public Works in front of you this evening is related to accessibility. City staff received and reported accessibility deficiency concerns at 5264 C Street Alley Crossing by a lady that uses the sidewalk at this location. Staff evaluations revealed that the location did not meet the minimum accessibility requirements, so the design of the improvements required to meet the accessibility were completed and approved by staff on September 21st, and a notice of inviting bids was advertised locally and released on Planet Bids on September 25th, 2020. On October 12th, 5 bids were received. A summary of the results is included in your staff report. NPG from Paris, California was deemed to be the lowest responsive bidder, with a base bid amount of $59,764 for the construction of these improvements. Therefore, staff is requesting the council approves the staff report with the recommendations indicated. This concludes my report, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on item number 19? Any input from the audience? Seeing none, need a motion and a second. Motion from Councilman Rodriguez, second from Mayor Pro Tem Howie. Item passes unanimously. Item number 20, award of contract Police Department gun range cleaning services. This is to approve a 3-year professional services agreement with Air Clean Environmental Incorporated, Los Angeles, California, in the amount of $212,192 or $102.97 for the Police Department gun range cleaning services contract. Staff report this evening will be provided by our projects manager, Carolyn Balzer. And I always have to laugh at these contracts that end in like $2.97. Seriously.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The current fiscal year budget provides funding for the Police Department gun range cleaning services. All work to be performed will meet the current federal and state regulations of occupational exposure to lead and lead-bearing compounds. A request for proposals was posted on Planet Bids on September 25th, 2020. 2 proposals were received. The intent was to select a firm that best demonstrates competence and professional qualifications to perform the gun range cleaning services. During the review process, the proposal received by In Range Incorporated did not meet the minimum qualifications and was deemed non-responsive. Excuse me. The proposal submitted by Air Clean Environmental Incorporated, Los Angeles, California, was determined to be the responsive and responsible proposer. At this time, the staff is requesting City Council's approval to award a contract in the amount of $212,109.57 to Air Clean Environmental for a 3-year term with the option for 2 additional 1-year periods, subject to City Council approval. The City Attorney's Office has reviewed all the documents and found them to be in order. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Carolyn, who cleans the gun range now?
The last time it was cleaned by Air Clean Environmental Incorporated.
And what was their contract amount?
At that time, it was, they just did the mezzanine area, so it was around $15,000 for the, which is the air filters, for removal of the air filters. So
Why
the
the
gun-
why the drastic difference?
Well, the gun range is for the gun range itself, the range master's office, all of the entire gun range. So the mezzanine is a much smaller area that needs to be cleaned.
So it was never cleaned before?
Yes, it was. It was cleaned by Berkeley Environmental in the past, and that averaged about $50,000 a year. It was cleaned twice a year.
It's quite an increase in price.
And how much will it be? How often will it be cleaned now?
It'll be cleaned twice a year. So you do the entire range twice a year. You do the mezzanine once a year. This cost does include cleaning the short-range trap. That'll be done annually. And then there's going to be a one-time fee, which will be done not this year, but next year for the long-range bullet trap. And that's basically removing all the lead fragments.
Tom?
Yeah, Carolyn, have we checked in to see if there's any kind of grant funding available for something like this for environmental purposes? Have we checked to see if there's any kind of?
No, we have not, but we can do that if you
Yeah, I
like.
think we probably should. It seems to me like from an environmental standpoint of getting lead out, maybe there's some federal funds or some state funds that might be available. We could check, right?
Okay,
Okay.
we'll look
thanks.
into it. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments,
I do.
questions?
I guess I have a
Mark?
question. Carolyn, is there any possible way we can share these facilities and get, I mean, there's a lot of police agencies around here that are looking probably to utilize gun ranges. Or is this something that's costing us based on what we're utilizing it as, and the price would just go up from there, which wouldn't make sense either in that respect, that we don't want to be paying for other people to use our ranges and just kind of passing the costs on to them, or at least the minimal costs, save it for ourselves in the long run. So I'm not sure whether we share this at all, or is it only our Chino PD that share this facility?
That is going to be up to the police department to answer that question.
Yeah, so currently we do not share our facilities, and what we found in our experience with utilizing other facilities we've utilized in the past is then something ends up happening and breaking or being damaged, and we become responsible. And additionally, with the more use of the facility, the more cleaning you have to do. And based off of our previous contract, which my understanding was about $66,000 a year, over a 3-year period of time, that's pretty close to what this contract is. This is $210 over 3 years, so that's about $70,000 a year. And the big issue with this is cancer, and being able to protect our people from lead poisoning and things like that, and making sure the traps are clean. We're saving money by not having to transport our personnel to another facility. We get to do our training right there on site, so we don't have to pay them overtime to go somewhere else.
Wes, how often are they required to shoot?
4 times a year, but then we bring them in more times if they need it or is necessary.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Howie, second from Councilman Rodriguez. Item passes unanimously. You had to say that, right? Get the lead out. Item number 21, award of contract library chiller replacement project, IB 208. This item is to award a contract in the amount of $121,989 to CE Mechanical, Chino, California, for the library chiller replacement project. Carolyn, your item again.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The current fiscal year budget provides funding for the library chiller replacement project. The existing chiller is approximately 24 years old, and an inspection of the chiller determined the chiller to be in a state of failure and is in need of replacement. The project scope of work includes removing and replacing an existing 50-ton chiller and all the related equipment. A notice inviting bids was published in the Chino Champion and on Planet Bids. On September 18, 2020, 8 bids were accepted electronically. The lowest bid submitted was CE Mechanical of Chino, California, in the amount of $121,989. Staff reviewed the contractor's licenses, bonds, references, and deemed them to be the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. At this time, staff is requesting City Council's approval to award a contract in the amount of $121,989 to CE Mechanical for the project and authorize expenditures up to $12,198.90 for project contingencies. The City Attorney's Office has reviewed all the documents and found them to be in order. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Carolyn regarding the library chiller? Any questions from the audience? Okay, seeing none. It'll be good if this library starts being used like normal again. Okay, I would entertain a motion. Motion from Councilman Rodriguez, second from Councilman Lucio. Item passes unanimously. Item number 22, naming of the Central Avenue and Phillips Boulevard Park site. Adopt Resolution 2020-065, memorializing the name of the new park set to be located at the southeast corner of Central Avenue and Phillips Boulevard as Chino Rancho Park. Carolyn, your item again.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The current fiscal year budget provides funding for the Central Avenue and Phillips Boulevard Park Site Development Project. At this time, the park site is currently under design, and a formal name for the park needs to be established and approved. The city's park naming policy gives guidelines for selecting a park name. A park naming subcommittee of the Community Services Commission provided recommendations to the full commission. A list of potential park names was provided by city staff and the public to the Community Services Commission for review. A list of potential park names is provided in the report. At the September 28, 2020 Community Services Commission meeting, the Community Services Commission voted 6-0 with 1 absent in favor of recommending Chino Rancho Park to the City Council for adoption. This concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any comments regarding the park from the audience? No? Okay, entertain a motion. Motion from Councilman Rodriguez, second from Councilman Lucio. Item passes unanimously. Okay, next on the agenda is mayor and council reports. This was kind of a busy couple of weeks. On Wednesday, October 7th, I attended virtually attended the Omnitrans and San Bernardino County Transportation Authority Board of Directors meetings. I also participated in the drive-by retirement celebration for Irene Hensley, or she's also known as Grandma to Dog Lugo. On Thursday the 8th, I virtually attended the Watermaster Appropriative Pool, and then attended the Finance Department Employee Luncheon, which was a nice event. On the 12th, I attended the Boss's Day celebration for Matt Valentine. Rita did an extraordinary job with that. And then Matt and I both attended the Regional Water Management Workshop with other Chino Basin members. On the 13th, I attended the Community Services Employee Luncheon. And then after that, had a meeting with Matt. We met with the Chino Unified School District's board president and their superintendent regarding concerns on mutually used land. On the 14th, I joined city staff, and Councilman Rodriguez was also in attendance. We attended kind of a celebration at the senior center where the gas company actually gave $25 gift certificates for the seniors, their senior meals. And then that afternoon, or midday, was the Development Services Employee Luncheon. On the 15th, virtually attended the Water Master Advisory Committee, the Recharge Improvement Project Committee, and San Bernardino County Transportation Authority Metro Valley Committee meeting. And then that afternoon, I participated in Supervisor Hagman's joint mayor's call with the status of the San Bernardino County. Every year, we normally have an employee luncheon, big employee luncheon for everyone to attend, but because of COVID, we haven't been able to do that this year. So there are individual employee luncheons for each department, and then after the final employee luncheon, then City Manager Ballantyne will be announcing the Employee of the Year, so that will be nice. But it's very unusual not to be able to get everybody together, but they've been nice. The luncheons have been nice, and it's kind of nice for a change to have that more intimate setting. They're held in the outdoor area of the police department, which it's really nice of the police department to allow those luncheons to occur there. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Howie.
Thank you, Eunice. Yeah, those luncheons I attended both those same luncheons, community services and development services. And of course, I do tell them that they're obviously my favorite department when I'm there. But, and they are. Linda's kind of laughing in the back there. But I enjoyed that. And it was kind of nice because when we do a regular luncheon and try to get it all in an hour and a half, everybody's rushing and trying to get it. And this is much more relaxed. And it's good. It's great for the employees too. Except I would probably suggest maybe a little later, and not so much early October when it's 100 degrees outside. Both the lunches were pretty warm from that standpoint, but they were good from that standpoint. And just a couple of comments tonight. This is my last meeting before the general election, and it's just kind of weird. This is the first time since the year 2000 that I have not been on the ballot. And it's just kind of a strange situation looking at the ballot, and I'm not having to run, not having to have signs out there, not having to have signs stolen, not having just the anxiety of running a campaign. So to those of you that are still doing that, of course I feel for you.
Sure you do.
I know I don't, but and then also last night I did go by the Planning Commission last night and just get up during the public comments. And I just thank them for the job and the working relationship that we've had with them. I was on the Planning Commission back. Walt Pocock is still on the Planning Commission. He's the only one on the Planning Commission that I was on for a brief period back in 2001. And I just thank them for the thankless job that they do, looking at all the projects in the city. They have to read all that stuff and learn how to be developers and learn about how a project has to get done and approve it, and makes our job as council members a lot easier because of the work that they do. And I thank them, and they thank me, and it was a nice moment last night. So that's about it. Just good luck to everybody, and we'll be back here in 2 weeks for a short meeting for election night. I know that. So that's the end of my comments.
You're getting a little melancholy, huh?
That's not bad. A little bit, but not bad. Thanks.
Councilman Hargrove.
Okay, thanks. Not much to report, other than since the council meeting, we had a Citizen Advisory Committee with CIW, who's hasn't had one since March. Not much to report there, just their typical do stuff that they're doing. And CIM later on. I mean, maybe we could take on CIM's way of cleaning the range. You just don't do it. That
Theirs is
saves
outdoor,
us a lot of money.
A little different.
Adds a lot of lead to the ground, but so that's kind of a suggestion. Maybe you can look into that, Wes. I wouldn't recommend it though. And then Chino Valley Board of Trustees met. They're going through it again, just trying to keep up with what's happening in San Bernardino. Things are getting worse, not getting better, and Are they going to go to distant learning? Are they going to go to a hybrid brand where they're going to go in classrooms and distant learning? So, and then lastly, today we met with the Economic Subcommittee, Tom and I, just talking about various projects around the city that potentially could develop into viable projects. I will mention that I've heard that before. I did watch the candidate forums, very informative. I like watching and listening to what people have to say, and in some respects, what their knowledge is. Some of them are very knowledgeable and seem to have done their background, and some have a lot of homework to do. And I guess I'll add that to myself, is that you won't really get a full indoctrination until you get on the council, and then you learn that it's easy to say one thing and much harder to do one thing, to do another, I guess. But in terms of that, all the things that I heard them mentioning that really seem to be concerns with them, whether it's out in the preserve, north side of Chino, I can attest to that all those have been looked at by the city, are continuing to be looked at by the city and the council. I have no concerns in terms of what I believe is staff's understanding of what's deficient in the city and what can be improved, and the city manager's responsibilities and his direction for that, and what the council would like to see. I think all 5 members up here have been very clear to the city manager of what they would like to see viable in the whether it's the sphere or down in the preserve. And there are just some contingencies, and when you're dealing with, when I've learned, when you're dealing with millions of dollars, not thousands of dollars or not hundreds of thousands of dollars, but millions of dollars, it takes a little time. Takes sometimes more than a year to get projects pushed through, and to make sure that we're getting our bang for our buck, quite honestly. And Chino has done that very well. So I continue to support everything the staff does here and the city manager. And that concludes my comments.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Boy, am I lucky. So November 2nd, my wife and I will be married 29 years.
Oh, wow.
I still feel like a kid. 29-year-old. I was about 27 years old at the time we got married. So I still feel that way. But God bless her for putting up with me and all of our family and all the things that she has to endure. She's a saint. And happy anniversary. I love you to death. Thanks.
I think she's a pretty lucky lady.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Councilman Lucio.
No, I too had the opportunity to watch two, or at least be able to see the candidate forum for the school board on Zoom. It was a little different watching it on Zoom and people popping in and out. But they have a challenging role, especially with the distance learning. I know some of the things that came up were the special needs of, and I can tell you from us being 2 working parents, we have a son that has special needs, and it's really hard it's challenging to have him learn online, and especially with the disability, the learning disability that he has. So we were fortunate enough to put him in a school where he was able to go every day, because the frustration that he had not being able to learn online was difficult. So my hat's off to the candidates that are running. They got a lot of things that they got to come up with and solve, because it doesn't look like San Bernardino County is going to be opening up anytime soon, unfortunately. So I know the frustration of a lot of parents out there. I also was able to come here and watch the candidate forum for the city council. Like Mark said, I mean, I can tell you 2 years ago when I ran, I wasn't familiar with a lot of the things that were going on and what the processes are to get things done in the city, and how we try to finance them so that we try not to burden the cost so much with the citizens of the city paying the whole bill. So it's challenging. My hat's off to the 4 people that are running in Tom's district. Obviously, good luck to all of them. It's an exciting time. I'm like Tom said, I'm thankful that I'm not waking up my son at 4 o'clock in the morning saying, hey, on Saturday, let's go put up some signs. So I'm glad we're not running this time.
But it was good to see the mayor up there. Unfortunately, again, she was unopposed for the second time. But obviously, she's a wealth of knowledge about what occurs in the city, and Paul did a great job up there as well. And it's good to see people that are still interested in being part of this and running for seats. So my hat's off to them. And I'm going to cut it short because Tom says that the Dodgers are playing, so he doesn't want me to take a long time.
Oh, my goodness. Mark, I do have one question for you. You talked about CIM and CIW. Did they mention their COVID numbers at all? What's happening?
No, well, of course they mentioned them, but they went drastically down.
They did go down?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what they initially started, I mean, CIM really was, not CIW, CIM really was the core of the infestation of COVID for the Department of Corrections. I mean, they made a decision to utilize non-affected, non-positive inmates and move them to San Quentin and then ultimately to Folsom, which ended up, whatever happened was that those patients were positive and or passed along, and it just kind of spread throughout the department. They have since, got a good handle on it because one thing the state does, I'll say that I'll compliment them, they do very well, is they do very well in crises, but you have to create a crisis, right? I mean, you'd rather not have the crisis in the first place.
Right.
But in terms of their numbers, I don't remember off the top of my head whether they are increasing or decreasing. I just know that they've stabilized in terms of that. CIW never really has had the numbers, although they have significantly went up where they had maybe one in the initial months or so. They've went up, and then I think we give a reporting on that on either our webpage or our San Bernardino site. Matt probably knows more about that. At least I do see that come out. It seems like every day it comes out where they report what those numbers are for CIW and CIM.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Rodriguez.
Okay, before I start, just to remind everyone that November 1st, you can move your clocks back. You can have an extra hour to sleep. So anyway, October 7th through the 9th was the League of California Cities. This year, everything was zoom in and zoom out. So one of the sessions that I attended was very interesting because it dealt with the conditions such as drought, flood, sea level rising, and wildfires, and windstorms. And I think here in Chino, we experience all those elements sometime during the year. And what the state has done through Senate Bill 379, Senate Bill 246, Senate Bill 1000, it requires cities and counties to incorporate climate adaptation and environmental justice in their general plans to combat climate change that we're facing here in California. So I know that our city has been working on that and has been working. It's part of also SoCal, the strategic plan that SCAG has, Southern California Connected Cities. So that's part of that too. So second one would be, I think, as I mentioned in the beginning, I see the city as a systemic build of different departments in the sense that housing is affected by homelessness. Homelessness is affected by food survival. It affects our safety with police. And I believe my hat goes off, if I had a hat, to the police that they're doing a very good job with the new SWAG program. And it's very good because they can go out and speak to the homeless and get them help where we can give them help and when they accept help. So it's a good start. But to continue with what I'm saying with Senate Bill or SB 743, there's a new measure of the way we're measuring driving. It's no longer looking at the impact of drivers, but measuring how far they drive. So it's called VMT, vehicle mileage traveled. So, and it addresses really the idea back to environment. So the impact of that would be that cities are being told that, look, with the VMT, start creating hubs where we can have less cars on the road and have more transportation through buses, services, more biking lanes, more walking lanes, and so forth. So it's a very progressive-looking item or bill, and I think it's very important for the city and all of California and Southern California especially, since so many people would rather be here during the winter than in New York City. I wouldn't want to be out there during the snow. But that concludes my report.
Okay. City Manager Ballantyne, any report this?
Yes, Mayor. First, I want to thank the council for the contract extension. I appreciate that. Also
thanks.
wanted to share that we're starting the meetings back up down in the preserve. Our next meeting, we had a meeting in October. It was well attended by the residents down there. Our next meeting will be Thursday. We'll be meeting on the first Thursdays of every other month. So our next meeting will be December 3rd down in the preserve. We'll push that out, that information out via social media. As far as CIM, the latest reports that, and this is straight from the Department of Corrections, they have 249 staff members at CIM that have tested positive, 1,402 inmates that have tested positive. At CIW, as mentioned by Councilmember Hargrove, those numbers are less. You have 85 staff members and 353 inmates that have tested positive. The death rates have been relatively stable. And in comparison to overall, the county's reporting that we have 3,800 positive cases in the city of Chino.
And that number includes CIM and CIW?
Yeah, there's some little inconsistencies between how the county's reporting it and how CDR, or the Department of Corrections, reporting it, but those were the general numbers. And then finally, we talked a little bit about the RETA numbers, and it's just important. We can't reiterate enough that the community participates in the next housing element. We'll be doing a lot of work come January, but we need to have the housing element adopted by this time next year. So there'll be a lot of discussions about where to rezone these properties, and again, I would strongly encourage the community to participate in that discussion. That concludes my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Galante, any city attorney's report this evening?
Yes, just a short report, and staying on the theme of housing, at the end of last month on September 28th, the governor signed several housing bills. The one that I will highlight, this is as a result of impacts of COVID. The one I will highlight is AB 1561. It essentially extends the expiration of residential housing entitlements that would otherwise expire, those that had been approved before March 4th of 2020 and were set to expire at the end of next year. They get an automatic 18-month extension. So the theory is because of the impact to the construction business, et cetera, the folks that have received those approvals get an automatic extension. So that applies to every jurisdiction, including Chino. There were other bills, and I'll provide a summary to your staff and to this council, but that was the one that was the most impactful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Chief Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to share that overall we've seen our theft numbers in the city go down. We think that's a result primarily of kind of the restrictions with COVID, putting more people at home, but we're still experiencing theft. And what I encourage the public to do is, if you are the victim of a theft, make sure you report it to us. I know a lot of times people feel, well, I don't want to bother anybody, or it wasn't that big a deal. We need those reports so we can help catch these criminals. We've had reports recently of mail theft, and those lead to other crimes. And if we can help track those people down and stop them, then hopefully we'll prevent other crimes. The other thing, people can report these thefts online now. They don't have to wait for a police officer to come to their house. They can actually go to the cityofchino.org website, go to the police tab, and you can report the crime directly on the website. And then the second thing is, if you haven't signed up for the United States Postal Service Informed Delivery, please do that. They will send you a photo every day of the mail that's going to show up at your house. So you can see what you're going to get, and if it doesn't show up, then you know to call us and report that. And finally, I just wanted to share my condolences with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. We're wearing our mourning bands in honor of Sergeant Mr. Cohen, Sergeant Cohen, who passed away on Sunday on duty. So you'll see our officers wearing these black bands. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions this evening? Okay, thank you very much.
You know, Wes, I just wanted to, I saw something that came up on social media, and I'm not exactly sure of all the particulars, but I just wanted to commend your officers. I was told that, at least I saw it on social media, that there was an arrest or a couple of arrests made and 4 handguns recovered last week. So
Yep.
I just wanted to thank them for being out there doing the job and taking people to jail that need to go to jail. I appreciate it.
Thank you. They're doing a great job, and we are seeing more guns out on the streets, which I'm sure you guys, your personnel are seeing as well. It's in addition to theft going down, all of our other crimes are generally going down except for assaults. We're seeing assaults increase. Thank you.
Yeah, there have been, the last couple of nights, there's been some crazy incidents, and it just explodes on Facebook. I mean, I think the people on Facebook know what's going on before anybody else does.
It's pretty hard to beat that.
It is, especially when they're videoing it live.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's interesting, but it's scary too.
It is, but know that our personnel are out there and that Chino is a safe city.
Well, and it was interesting watching one video of, I think it was last night, it happened last night, but all the comments also were, thank God we have our police department, you know, and they referred to some of the complaints, you know, defund the police, and they said, thank God our community's not defunding it. What would you do? What would you do in these instances
Absolutely.
if you didn't have police to call? Who are you gonna call, your neighbor?
Right.
You know, it's crazy times.
I
Thank you,
agree.
Wes.
Thank you.
Okay, fire report.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. Nathan Cook, Deputy Chief over at Chino Valley Fire. Just wanted to continue to remind the public and staff and City Council that we are continuing to be engaged actively on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're working with our stakeholders and partners with the county and actively keeping our finger on the pulse of what's going on out there and responding to our community members, both from an emergency standpoint and also a supportive role with regards to that. So just wanted to remind everyone of that. And then also, we're being told that this year's flu season is going to be very impactful, given the situation with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so we want to encourage everyone that's able and willing to get a flu shot that can do so, to go ahead and do that. And the results and research is saying that if we can get a flu shot, that will help keep the pandemic at bay and keep people healthy. So just a friendly reminder on that note. And once again, thanks for all your support over these past 8 months. We know it's been rigorous, going through this pandemic together, but we're all in this together. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Do you have any firefighters that are still on loan to any of the
So we
fire-
currently have 2 that are deployed as fire line paramedics right now in Northern California, and they should be back shortly. So
Okay.
yep.
So the numbers have gone down, thank goodness.
Drastically, yep. And, just another reminder, we're in October, so the Santa Ana winds are blowing, and they will continue to blow. So we're definitely not out of the woods yet for Southern California, and we stand at the ready to respond to whatever comes our way. So
Okay. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Okay, with that then, we will adjourn to our next regular meeting that'll be held on Tuesday, November 3rd at 7 o'clock with closed session at 6 if necessary. We are adjourned.